Erik Larson, The Splendid and the Vile, a saga of Churchill, family, and defiance during the Blitz. Gain a riveting glimpse into a remarkable period of history with the gripping saga of Winston Churchill and his defiance during the Blitz. The Splendid and the Vile takes readers on an emotional journey, chronicling the horror, heroism, and human resilience that unfolded during the dark days of World War II. Faced with a seemingly unbeatable foe, Churchill's indomitable spirit, his courage and determination, and his unswerving focus on gaining American support were critical factors in steering Britain through its darkest hour. Discover the tales of bravery, grassroots rescue missions, and secret peace negotiations, all wrapped within this unforgettable account of the courage and destiny of a great nation.
Churchill's leadership during World War II. Churchill's unwavering confidence, determination to win American support, and unique leadership style helped steer the UK towards victory against Nazi Germany. In May 1940, the UK faced an unimaginable threat from the Nazi army's invasion of France. Neville Chamberlain's appeasement strategy had failed, and the UK needed a strong leader to navigate the danger ahead. Winston Churchill rose to power, despite skepticism from others, and immediately set his sights on securing American support for the war effort. Churchill's confidence in the UK's chances of victory was unwavering, even in the face of overwhelming odds. He knew that winning the war was impossible without the US, but convincing them to join was a challenge. Despite being seen as unreliable by some American officials, Churchill persisted and leveraged his strong relationship with President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to secure their backing. Churchill's leadership style was unique, to say the least. He famously worked during his daily baths and would answer the phone naked if necessary. But his commitment to the UK and its people was unwavering. His speeches to the House of Commons showcased his signature oratory style and served as a call to action for the nation. Under Churchill's leadership, the UK government was energized from day one. Everyone was pulling in the same direction, determined to stop Germany from invading England and win the war. Churchill's leadership gave hope to the British people, and his charisma earned their trust. In conclusion, Churchill's confident leadership, determination to secure American support, and unique style helped steer the UK towards victory against Nazi Germany. Despite the challenges and setbacks ahead, Churchill's unwavering commitment to his country and its people never faltered. Dunkirk Spirit. In 1940, the Germans broke through the impenetrable Maginot Line, causing the French to retreat in chaos. The British Expeditionary Force was left demoralized and exhausted, with hundreds of thousands of troops still in Dunkirk and Nazi forces in pursuit. However, Hitler's order to halt his tanks allowed for the evacuation of British troops from Dunkirk. With only 7,700 troops evacuated on the first day, civilians in private boats sailed across the channel and rescued over 300,000 soldiers. This heroic grassroots rescue gave Britain the necessary morale boost for the fight ahead, and Churchill used this small victory to end all speculation of pursuing peace with Hitler. Battle for Air Supremacy. In the summer of 1940, Germany's ability to bomb England was a major threat. Hitler's right-hand man, Hermann Göring, had built up the Luftwaffe to become the most powerful air force in the world. With Britain bracing for an invasion, Churchill knew that the only way to defend the country was through air power, and he demanded air mastery. Against all odds, the Royal Air Force fighter aces seemed to be holding their own in a spectacle of dogfights that captivated the British public and were even broadcast on radio. Hitler, in the meantime, dragged his feet on releasing the full might of his air force on England, hoping for a peace deal, while Churchill worked tirelessly to produce more fighter planes and ensure Britain's air defense. Churchill's pursuit of U.S. naval support. As France fell under Nazi rule, Churchill reached out to Roosevelt for naval support to prevent a United States of Europe under Nazi domination. Despite initial reluctance, Roosevelt eventually agreed to lend Churchill some destroyers in exchange for American access to British naval bases. Meanwhile, the Luftwaffe and the Royal Air Force engaged in intense aerial combat, with Churchill sending daily telegrams to Roosevelt for aid. Although Hitler planned an invasion, the RAF's triumph over the Luftwaffe played a significant role in preventing Operation Sea Lion. The accidental bombing. Luftwaffe commander Hermann Göring relied on bad intel to launch Operation Adlertag against the RAF, which failed miserably due to a belligerent RAF defense. The RAF discovered that German Stuka planes were weakest when making dives, exploiting their vulnerability, shooting down more planes than they lost. The operation was intended to weaken the RAF in preparation for a full-scale invasion by the Nazis. Despite the failure of Adlertag, Operation Sea Lion was still on schedule, pushed back by a month. However, a navigational error led to a group of German bombers getting lost and accidentally bombing London, providing Churchill with an excuse to take the offensive against Germany in launching a counterattack. The destruction of London. In retaliation for the attacks on Berlin, Hitler ordered the first intentional hit on London. Göring and his officers set up a picnic to watch the first wave of nearly 1,000 German aircraft attacking London. The bombing carried a combination of high-explosive standard bombs, incendiary oil bombs, and bombs with time-delayed fuses designed to keep firefighting crews at bay. Churchill, the King, and Queen were all targets. Through all the chaos, the RAF kept hitting back, and the Battle of Britain Day was won by the RAF. Hitler failed to destroy Britain, but Göring and Hitler doubled down. The key message here is, German bombs made living in London a terrifying experience. Britain endures bombardment. Hitler postponed invasion plans due to threat from the RAF and focused on defeating Russia with Operation Barbarossa. Coventry was bombed, leading to a deep financial crisis in Britain. Churchill reached out to Roosevelt for aid. Brits living in crowded shelters faced abysmal conditions. Hitler couldn't believe Churchill's resilience and Rudolf Hess took matters into his own hands with back-channel peace negotiations. Roosevelt's commitment to Britain. Roosevelt finally responds to Churchill's overtures and demonstrates his commitment to the British cause in his Christmastime address to Americans by using the word Nazi for the first time. The Luftwaffe lets loose on London's financial district the next day, resulting in the Second Great Fire of London. While the bombing causes death and destruction, Churchill sees it as an opportunity to win American sympathy. Roosevelt sends his personal friend Harry Hopkins to London, where he and Churchill form a close bond. Hopkins reports back to Roosevelt that Britain needs America's help urgently. Meanwhile, Hitler orders Göring to finish off the RAF, creating the illusion of an imminent invasion to push Churchill to surrender. Churchill's triumphs and tribulations. In March 1941, Churchill received crucial American support, which put him in a celebratory mood until the persistence of air raids dampened his spirits. Rommel was also pummeling British troops in North Africa and the Middle East, leading Churchill to depend on American support more and more. As London continued to suffer from bombings, Parliament called for a war situation debate, which Churchill ultimately won despite a shaky start, but he faced yet another challenge with a devastating German attack on London, resulting in thousands of casualties and damage to the city. The strange case of Rudolf Hess. Rudolf Hess, the third-ranking Nazi official, flew solo from Germany to Scotland to deliver a secret message for peace negotiations during the Blitz. Despite his efforts, Britain wasn't interested, and Churchill locked him up in the Tower of London. The affair captivated the public on both sides of the Atlantic, including Roosevelt himself, and sparked numerous questions and puns in the press. Britain endured, Churchill triumphed. The bombing left thousands dead, but Churchill inspired Britain to keep fighting. Hitler's failure in Operation Barbarossa led to a second front in the war, and with America joining the Allies, Churchill's leadership took a turn for the better. During World War II, London endured frequent bombings that resulted in over 29,000 deaths and 28,000 serious injuries. Despite these devastating losses, the people of Britain refused to give in, which Churchill recognized and encouraged. This determination paid off as the bombings gradually decreased in frequency and Churchill succeeded in convincing Hitler that Britain would not back down. Operation Barbarossa, launched in June 1941, represented a turning point in the war as it marked the opening of a second front against the USSR. This decision defied earlier advice Hitler gave in Mein Kampf. Although Hitler envisioned a quick victory, the Soviet army was stronger than expected, which ultimately prevented the Germans from invading England. Churchill's mood shifted when he found out about Japan's attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor a few weeks before Christmas. He immediately declared war on Japan, and with America on their side, the balance of power shifted in favor of the Allies. Churchill's leadership was no longer one of desperation, and he was now able to enjoy the role he had always dreamed of. On a state visit to the White House, Churchill famously greeted President Roosevelt stark naked, holding a drink in one hand and a cigar in the other. Their camaraderie embodied the relationship between the US and Britain as they came together to fight a common enemy. In conclusion, the bombing of London was a significant event during World War II, but rather than striking fear, it inspired Churchill and the British people to keep going. Hitler's short-sightedness in Operation Barbarossa contributed to his eventual defeat, while Churchill's leadership and strong alliance with the US proved instrumental in the ultimate triumph of the Allies.
The Splendid and the Vile narrates the harrowing experiences of Britain under the Nazi assault, while shedding light on the remarkable leadership and vision of Winston Churchill. Though faced with immense challenges, Churchill successfully appealed to a hesitant America, led his country through the perilous Battle of Britain, and defied Hitler's formidable war machine. By the end, the collective strengths of hope, determination, and the intervention of the United States ultimately shifted the tide of the war. This saga not only commemorates the bravery and fortitude of the British people but celebrates the extraordinary leadership that helped shape the Allied victory and the course of history.